Admiral Lee Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the starship New Seoul, watching the stars through the main screen. His crew had been exploring this part of space for 3 months. They were looking for new worlds where humans could live. The year was 2387, and humanity had spread to many star systems. "Admiral, we have something on our sensors," said Captain Park So-young. She was his best officer and had been with him for 10 years. "It looks like ships. Big ones." Lee walked over to her station. "How many ships?" "At least 20. They are much larger than ours." Park's voice was worried. "They are moving toward us very fast." Dr. Kim Jae-ho, the ship's scientist, looked up from his computer. "The ships are made of materials I have never seen before. Their energy readings are very high." Lee felt his stomach tighten. In all his years exploring space, he had met many alien races. Some were friendly, others wanted to fight. But none had ships this powerful. "Open a channel. Let's try to talk to them." The main screen changed. Instead of stars, they now saw a huge alien face. The creature looked like a giant lizard with hard, dark skin. Its eyes were yellow and cold. Sharp teeth filled its mouth. The alien wore what looked like metal armor. "I am Overlord Kraxthul of the Vorthak Empire," the creature said. Its voice was deep and scary. "You will surrender your ships immediately. You are now slaves of the Alpha species." Lee stepped forward. "I am Admiral Lee Hyun-woo of the Terran Federation. We come in peace. We want to talk and learn about each other." Kraxthul made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not nice. "Peace, you weak mammals speak of peace? We are the Alpha species. We rule this galaxy. You are nothing but animals to be used." "We are not animals," Lee said, trying to stay calm. "We are intelligent beings just like you. Surely we can find a way to work together." "Work together?" Kraxthul's eyes became angry. "The Alpha species does not work with lower life forms. You exist only to serve us or die." On his side screen, Lee could see the alien ships getting closer. They were huge, at least 5 times bigger than his largest ship. Strange lights glowed along their hulls. "Show them our power," Kraxthul ordered someone off-screen. Suddenly, beams of green energy shot from the alien ships. The beams hit 3 human ships. Lee watched in horror as the ships stopped moving. "Their lights went out. Our shields are not working," shouted Park. "Whatever they hit us with, it goes right through our defenses." Dr. Kim was typing quickly on his computer. "Admiral, they are using some kind of energy that I do not understand. Our shields cannot stop it." More green beams fired. This time they hit the research ship Busan. Lee could only watch as the ship was pulled into the belly of one of the alien vessels. "Captain Yoon and his crew," Lee said. "We have to help them." "Admiral, we cannot fight these ships," Park said. "We need to retreat and warn Earth." Kraxthul appeared on the screen again. "Your research vessel is now ours. The 300 humans aboard will be very useful for our experiments. This is what happens to those who do not surrender immediately." Lee felt anger and fear fighting in his chest. "What do you want from us?" "Everything," Kraxthul said. "Your worlds, your resources, your people. In 30 of your days, our fleets will arrive at your home systems. You will surrender completely, or we will take everything by force. Your species will learn what it means to face the Alpha." "We will never surrender to you," Lee said. "Then you will all die," Kraxthul replied. "But first we will make sure you suffer. Your people will watch as we destroy your cities. Your children will become our slaves. Your strongest will work in our mines until they die. And you, Admiral, will live long enough to see your species broken." The alien ships began to move away, taking the captured Busan with them. Lee wanted to follow, but he knew his remaining ships could not fight such powerful enemies. "Admiral," Park said quietly, "we need to get back to Earth as fast as possible." Lee nodded, but he could not take his eyes off the alien ships. In all his years in space, he had never felt so helpless. These Vorthak had technology that made human ships look like toys. They had captured 300 people, including Dr. Kim's research team, and there was nothing he could do about it. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "Maximum speed." As the New Seoul and the remaining human ships jumped to faster-than-light travel, Lee thought about what had just happened. The Vorthak called themselves the Alpha species. They believed they were better than all other life in the galaxy. They had ships and weapons that humans could not match. But what worried Lee most was not their technology. It was their attitude. The way Kraxthul had looked at him, like he was looking at an insect. The way he had talked about humans like they were animals. These aliens did not just want to conquer humanity. They wanted to destroy everything that made humans human. Dr. Kim walked up to the Admiral. Sir, I recorded everything about their ships and weapons. Maybe our scientists on Earth can figure out how they work. Do you think we have a chance against them? Lee asked. Dr. Kim was quiet for a moment. Their technology is very advanced. But Admiral, in all my studies of alien races, I have learned something important. The most powerful species are not always the ones who survive. What do you mean? Species that think they are perfect often become weak in ways they do not see. They stop learning. They stop adapting. Maybe these Vorthak have the same problem. Lee hoped Dr. Kim was right, but as he looked at the stars rushing past his ship, he could not shake the feeling that humanity was about to face something it might not survive. In 30 days, the Vorthak fleets would arrive at human worlds. And when they did, millions of people would learn what it meant to face an enemy that called itself Alpha. The only question was whether humanity would be ready for them. President Yoon Sang-min sat in the emergency meeting room on Earth. Around the table were the most important people in the Terran Federation. Admiral Lee had returned 3 days ago with terrible news. Now everyone was trying to figure out what to do. The Vorthak fleets will be here in 27 days, said General Choi Min-ho, the head of all human military forces. We have moved our ships to protect the most important worlds, but we do not have enough vessels to stop them. Dr. Kang Yu-jin, the Federation's best weapons scientist, looked at her computer screen. I have studied the data from Admiral Lee's encounter. Their energy weapons are unlike anything we have ever seen. Our shields cannot stop them. President Yoon felt the weight of 6 billion human lives on his shoulders. What about our allies? Can the other alien races help us? Most of them are too far away, General Choi replied. The few that are close enough are afraid of the Vorthak. Some have already offered to help the Vorthak find our worlds if we do not surrender. Commander Oh Eun-seo, the leader of Special Forces, spoke up. Sir, we could try hit-and-run attacks. Make it hard for them to control our worlds even if they conquer them. Before anyone could answer, an aide rushed into the room. Sir, we are getting reports from our border worlds. The Vorthak have arrived early. On the main screen, images appeared from New Incheon Colony. Huge alien ships hung in the sky above the cities. The ships were dark and covered with spikes. They looked like flying weapons. A voice came through the speakers. It was Overlord Craxtel. People of New Incheon, you will surrender now. Come to the collection points we have marked. Bring nothing but yourselves. Resistance will result in the destruction of your cities. President Yoon watched as thousands of humans walked out of their homes with their hands up. Families with children, old people, young workers, all of them looked terrified. Sir, General Choi said, our ships at New Incheon are trying to fight back. They watched as human warships fired their weapons at the Vorthak vessels. The laser blasts and missiles hit the alien ships but did no damage. Then the green energy beams fired back. One by one, the human ships stopped working and were pulled into the alien vessels. Admiral Park is requesting permission to retreat, an officer reported. Tell her to fall back, President Yoon ordered. There was no point in losing more ships and people. Over the next few hours, reports came in from other worlds. Port Tagu fell without a fight when the colonists saw what happened at New Incheon. Gwangju Station tried to resist, but the Vorthak simply destroyed the entire space station. 50,000 people died in seconds. Dr. Kang looked up from her computer with a pale face. Sir, we are receiving transmissions from the conquered worlds. The Vorthak are sorting the people. Sorting them? President Yoon asked. They are dividing humans into groups. The strongest are being sent to work in mines and factories. The smartest are being taken for experiments. The rest, Dr. Kang's voice broke. The rest are being killed. Commander Oh stood up quickly. We need to do something. We cannot just sit here while they murder our people. What can we do? General Choi asked. Their ships are too powerful. Every time we fight them, we lose. On the screen, new images appeared. They showed huge buildings that the Vorthak had built on the conquered worlds. Humans were being forced to walk into these buildings. Families were being separated. Children were crying as they were taken from their parents. A new voice came through the speakers. It was not Craxtel this time, but another Vorthak. I am War Commander Sekthor. We are broadcasting this message to all human worlds. Watch and learn what happens to those who resist the Alpha species. The images showed humans being forced to work in dark mines. They were digging up metals and crystals for the Vorthak. The humans looked tired and scared. Many had injuries. Guards with energy weapons watched them constantly. Your people work 18 hours each day, Sekthor continued. They receive 1 meal of nutrition paste. Those who cannot work are eliminated. Those who try to escape are eliminated. This is the mercy of the alpha species. President Yoon felt sick. Turn it off. Sir, Dr. Kang said. I think we need to see this. We need to understand what we are fighting against. The transmission continued. It showed Vorthak scientists studying captured humans. They were testing how much pain humans could feel, how long they could work without food, how they reacted to different chemicals. The humans in these experiments were screaming. We are learning much about your species, Sekthor said. Your bodies are weak, but your minds are interesting. We will use this knowledge to make you better slaves. Commander O was shaking with anger. I am going to kill every one of those monsters. General Choi put his hand on her shoulder. We all want revenge, but we need to be smart about this. Dr. Kang suddenly looked excited. Wait, I think I see something important in these transmissions. What? President Yoon asked. Look at how the Vorthak organize themselves. Every order comes from the top. The lower-ranked aliens never make decisions on their own. And look at their technology. It is very advanced, but it never changes. They use the same weapons, the same tactics every time. General Choi leaned forward. What does that mean? It means they are not creative, Dr. Kang explained. They do not adapt. They found a way to win battles long ago, and they have never changed it. But humans, we change, we learn, we adapt. That is a nice idea, Commander O said, but it does not help us fight their ships. Dr. Kang smiled for the first time in days. Maybe it does. I want to start a new project. I want to build weapons that can fight the Vorthak. But not normal weapons. Weapons that think. Weapons that can adapt. How long would that take? President Yoon asked. I do not know. Maybe months. Maybe years. We do not have years, General Choi said. They are conquering our worlds right now. Then we buy time, Commander O said. My people can sneak onto the conquered worlds. We can rescue prisoners. We can make the Vorthak's life difficult. President Yoon thought about everything he had heard. The Vorthak were powerful, but they were also predictable. They thought they were perfect, so they never tried to improve. Humans were weaker right now, but humans never stopped learning. Dr. Kang, you have all the resources you need for your project. Commander O, start planning rescue missions. General Choi, I want you to study every battle with the Vorthak. Find their weaknesses. What about the other human worlds? General Choi asked. The Vorthak will keep attacking them. President Yoon looked at the screen, which still showed images of human suffering. We evacuate who we can. We fight when we have to, and we make sure that every sacrifice teaches us something new about our enemy. The meeting ended, but President Yoon stayed in the room. He looked at the pictures of human colonies on the walls. Some of those worlds were already under Vorthak control. Soon more would fall, but something had changed during the meeting. For the first time since Admiral Lee had returned, President Yoon felt hope. The Vorthak thought they were the alpha species. They thought they were perfect. But President Yoon had learned something important about humans during his years in politics. Humans were never more dangerous than when someone told them they could not win. Dr. Kim Jae-ho crawled through the dark tunnel beneath the Vorthak prison camp. His hands were bloody from digging for 3 weeks. Behind him, 12 other humans followed quietly. They had to escape tonight or they would die in the experiments tomorrow. The tunnel ends here, whispered Dr. Lee So-ra, one of his research team members. We are under the fence. Kim pushed up on the metal plate above his head. Cool night air came down into the tunnel. Remember, we stay together. If the Vorthak catch us, some of us need to survive to tell Earth what we learned here. They climbed out one by one into the darkness. The prison camp was surrounded by high fences with energy barriers. But Kim had studied the patterns. Every night for 30 minutes, the barriers shut down for maintenance. The Vorthak were very organized, but they never changed their schedules. There, Kim pointed to the forest beyond the camp. If we can reach those trees, we can hide. They ran across the open ground. Kim's heart was beating fast. Behind them, the camp was full of sleeping humans. Thousands of people who could not escape. But if Kim could reach the human rescue ships that Commander O had sent, maybe he could help save them all. They reached the trees just as lights began to shine from the camp. Someone had discovered the tunnel. Kim heard the Vorthak guards making their horrible roaring sounds. Soon they would send hunting parties. This way, Kim whispered. He had memorized the map during his time in the camp. The rescue point was 5 kilometers through the forest. As they ran, Kim thought about everything he had learned during his months as a prisoner. The Vorthak were not as perfect as they claimed. They had rules for everything, and they never broke those rules. They always did things the same way. They never expected prisoners to be creative. Most importantly, Kim had learned that the Vorthak were afraid. They were afraid of anything they could not control. That was why they destroyed or enslaved every other species they met. They could not imagine working with equals. After an hour of running, they reached a clearing. Kim saw the human rescue ship hidden under camouflage nets. Commander O herself was waiting for them. "Dr. Kim," she said as they ran to the ship. "We thought you were dead." "Not yet," Kim replied. "But we need to leave now. The Vorthak will find this place soon." Once they were safely in space, Kim sat down with Commander O and told her everything he had learned. "The Vorthak have 3 castes," he explained. "The high caste gives all the orders. The middle caste follows orders exactly. The low caste does all the work and fighting. But here is the important part. The low caste hates the high caste." "What do you mean?" O asked. "I saw low caste Vorthak being punished for tiny mistakes. I saw them being forced to work even when they were injured. The high caste treats them almost as badly as they treat humans." Kim pulled out a small device. "I recorded conversations between low caste guards. They complain about their leaders. Some of them even said they wish someone would defeat the high caste." O's eyes became bright. "So we could turn them against each other?" "Maybe. But first we need to survive their attacks." When they arrived back at Earth, Kim was taken immediately to Dr. Kang's laboratory. She had been working on new weapons for months, but progress was slow. "Dr. Kim," she said when she saw him, "you look terrible, but I am so happy you are alive. Tell me everything about their technology." Kim spent hours describing the Vorthak ships and weapons. Their energy beams are very powerful, but they always fire in the same patterns. And their ships are huge, but they are not fast when they change direction. Dr. Kang was taking notes quickly. "What about their computer systems?" "Very advanced, but also very rigid. They cannot adapt to new situations quickly." Kim pulled out another small device. "I managed to record some of their computer signals." Dr. Kang plugged the device into her computer. Her face lit up as she saw the data. "This is perfect. I can use this to finish my project." "What project?" Kim asked. Dr. Kang led him to another room. Inside were sleek fighter ships that looked unlike anything Kim had ever seen. They were smaller than normal human fighters but covered with strange devices. "I call them Fury fighters," Dr. Kang explained. "They have artificial intelligence that can learn and adapt during battle. The computer brain gets smarter every time it fights." Captain Lim Dong-hyuk walked up to them. He was a test pilot who had been working with Dr. Kang. "Dr. Kim, these ships are amazing. Watch this." He led them to a simulation room where a virtual battle was playing. The Fury fighters were fighting against recordings of Vorthak ships. At first, the human ships were losing badly, but after a few minutes they began to fight differently. They started working together in new ways. Soon they were winning. "The AI learns from every mistake," Captain Lim explained. "It finds new tactics that the Vorthak cannot predict." Kim watched in amazement. "How many of these ships do we have?" "Right now only 50, Dr. Kang said. But we are building more every day." "We need to test them in real battle," Captain Lim said. "The simulations are good, but we need to know if they really work." A few days later, they got their chance. The Vorthak attacked Titan Station, one of the last human outposts in the outer system. General Choi sent the Fury fighters along with a normal fleet to defend it. Kim watched the battle from the command center on Earth. At first, it looked like every other fight with the Vorthak. The alien ships fired their green energy beams and the human ships began to fail. But then the Fury fighters attacked. They moved unlike any ships Kim had ever seen. They flew in patterns that seemed random but were actually very smart. When the Vorthak fired at them, they were already somewhere else. When the Vorthak tried to predict where they would go next, they changed their tactics. "Look at this," Dr. Kang said, pointing at her screen. "The AI is learning about Vorthak firing patterns in real time. It is already 3 steps ahead of them." The Fury fighters began to work together like a pack of hunting animals. They surrounded individual Vorthak ships and attacked from all directions at once. The Vorthak ships could not turn fast enough to defend themselves. For the first time since the war began, human ships were destroying Vorthak vessels. "We did it," Captain Lim said quietly. "We actually beat them." But Kim was thinking about something else. This is just the beginning. We won this battle because we surprised them. Next time they will be ready for the Fury fighters. So what do? Dr. Kang asked. Kim smiled. We do what humans do best. We adapt faster than they can. Over the next few weeks, more Fury fighters were built and sent to defend human worlds. Each battle taught the AI new things about fighting the Vorthak. The artificial intelligence shared its knowledge with all the other Fury fighters, so the entire fleet got smarter together. Meanwhile, Commander O began new missions to the conquered worlds. Her teams were no longer just rescuing prisoners. They were also contacting low-caste Vorthak and offering them a choice: help humanity fight the high-caste, or continue to be slaves forever. Some of the low-caste Vorthak began to provide information about their own ships and bases. Others started small rebellions on the conquered worlds. Engineer Bae-Jun Seok, working with Dr. Kang, used the stolen Vorthak technology to build even better weapons. Soon human ships had energy shields that could stop the green beams. Human weapons could punch through Vorthak armor. Kim stood in the command center watching reports come in from across human space. For months the news had been nothing but defeats and disasters. Now for the first time humans were winning battles. But he knew the real war was just beginning. The Vorthak still had hundreds of ships and millions of soldiers. They still controlled many human worlds, and they were starting to realize that humans were more dangerous than they had thought. Dr. Kim, General Choi said, walking up to him, we are planning a major offensive. We want to liberate one of the conquered worlds. Will you help us? Kim nodded. Which world? New Incheon, the first one they took. It is time to show the galaxy that the Alpha species can bleed. Admiral Lee Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Indomitable. 6 months ago, he had run from the Vorthak in shame. Today, he was leading the largest human fleet ever assembled to take back New Incheon. Fleet status report, he ordered. Captain Park So-young, now commanding her own ship, appeared on his screen. Wolfpack Squadron is ready, Admiral. We have 40 Fury fighters and 20 support ships. Colonel Nam Tae-ho's voice came through the communications. Ground forces are standing by. We have 10,000 Marines ready for landing operations. Dr. Shin Mi-young, the new psychological warfare specialist, checked her equipment. Broadcasting systems are online. We are ready to send messages to the low-caste Vorthak on the planet. Lee looked at the tactical display. New Incheon appeared as a red dot, surrounded by Vorthak ships. Intelligence reports said there were 15 alien vessels defending the planet, plus thousands of ground troops. But Lee was no longer the same man who had fled from Overlord Crackstall. Begin the operation, he ordered. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Incheon system. Immediately, alarms began sounding on the Vorthak ships. Admiral, his communications officer reported, the Vorthak commander is demanding our surrender. Put him on screen, Lee said. The familiar reptilian face of a Vorthak high caste appeared. This one was called Overlord Thekmor. Human Admiral, you will retreat immediately or be destroyed. New Incheon belongs to the Alpha species now. Lee smiled coldly. Overlord Thekmor, I am Admiral Lee Hyun-woo. I have come to take back what you stole. You have one chance to surrender and release all human prisoners. Thekmor made the horrible laughing sound that Vorthak found amusing. You think your little victories at other worlds mean you can challenge us here? We have studied your new tactics. We are ready for you. We will see, Lee replied. The Vorthak ships moved into their standard attack formation. It was the same pattern they always used, a line of heavy ships with weapons pointed forward. They expected the humans to charge directly at them, just like every other species they had fought. Instead, Captain Park's Wolfpack Squadron scattered in all directions. What are they doing? Thekmor could be heard asking his officers. The Fury fighters spread out in a wide circle around the Vorthak fleet. They began flying in complex patterns that looked random, but were actually very planned. The artificial intelligence controlling the fighters had learned from dozens of battles. Now, Admiral Lee ordered, Dr. Shin activated her psychological warfare broadcast. Her message was not aimed at the Vorthak commanders. It was aimed at the low-caste warriors on their ships. Low-caste Vorthak, her voice said in their language, you do not have to die for the high caste today. Human forces offer you a choice. Disable your weapons and surrender, and you will be treated with respect. Continue to fight for those who consider you disposable, and you will share their fate. On several Vorthak ships, Fights began to break out between different castes. At the same time, the Fury fighters attacked, but they did not attack the way any previous enemy had. Instead of trying to destroy the Vorthak ships, they targeted specific systems. They hit the communication arrays first, so the Vorthak commanders could not coordinate their fleet. Then they hit the weapon control systems. Impossible, Thekmore shouted as his ships began to drift helplessly. How do they know exactly where to hit us? The answer was simple. Dr. Kim's intelligence, combined with information from low-caste defectors, had given humans detailed maps of every Vorthak ship design. Engineer Baejun Seok had designed special weapons that could target these weak points with perfect accuracy. Admiral, Park reported, 5 Vorthak ships have surrendered. Their low-caste crews have taken control. Understood. Begin landing operations. Colonel Nam's Marines launched toward the planet in fast transport ships. The Vorthak had expected a long space battle, so most of their ground forces were not ready for an immediate invasion. But the most important part of the plan was happening on the planet's surface. Commander O and her Special Forces teams had been hiding on New Incheon for weeks. When the battle started, they began attacking Vorthak command centers and prison camps. This is O. Her voice came through the radio. We have liberated Prison Camp 7. 3,000 human civilians are free. Excellent work, Lee replied. Continue the mission. On the planet, O and her teams were not just rescuing humans. They were also meeting with low-caste Vorthak who had been secretly planning their own rebellion. A low-caste warrior named Kesithara had been waiting for this moment for months. She had watched the high-caste abuse her people and treat humans like animals. When the human commandos contacted her, she was ready to help. The high-caste bunker is there, she told O, pointing to a heavily defended building. But there is a maintenance tunnel that my caste uses. I can show you the way. Working together, humans and rebel Vorthak attacked the command center. The high-caste officers inside could not believe that their own people were fighting against them. Traitors, shouted the Vorthak planetary commander. The low-caste exists to serve. This is against the natural order. Kesithara looked at him with disgust. The natural order is dead. Today we choose freedom. In space, the battle was already over. 10 Vorthak ships had been captured or destroyed. The remaining 5 had surrendered when their low-caste crews took control. For the first time since the war began, humans had won a complete victory. But Admiral Lee was thinking about more than just this battle. Dr. Shin, are you recording everything? Yes, Admiral. Every moment is being broadcast across the galaxy. This was part of the plan. Lee wanted every alien species to see that the Vorthak could be beaten. He wanted low-caste Vorthak on other worlds to know that rebellion was possible. Most importantly, he wanted the Vorthak high caste to know that their empire was beginning to crack. Admiral, his intelligence officer reported, we are receiving messages from low-caste Vorthak on 12 other worlds. They are requesting human support for their own rebellions. Lee smiled. Send them everything they need to know about fighting the high caste. On the planet, the liberation continued. Prison camps were opened and thousands of humans were freed. Many were sick and injured from months of abuse, but they were alive. Medical teams began treating them immediately. Dr. Kim, who had joined the ground forces, walked through one of the liberated camps. He saw families reuniting after months of separation. He saw children who had forgotten how to smile beginning to laugh again. But he also saw something else. He saw low-caste Vorthak helping to carry wounded humans to medical stations. He saw former enemies working together to build something better than what had existed before. Dr. Kim, Colonel Nam called to him. We found something you need to see. Nam led him to a laboratory building that the Vorthak had used for their experiments on humans. Inside were detailed records of everything they had done. This is horrible, Kim said as he read the files. But it is also useful. These records show us exactly how Vorthak science works. We can use this knowledge against them. Engineer Baejun Seok was already studying captured Vorthak technology. Dr. Kim, look at this. Their weapons are very powerful, but they are also very simple. They never improve them because they think they are already perfect. But we can improve them, Kim realized. Exactly. We can take their own technology and make it better. As the liberation of New Incheon continued, reports came in from across the galaxy. The victory was having exactly the effect Admiral Lee had hoped for. Rebellions were breaking out on Vorthak worlds everywhere. Species that had been enslaved for generations were rising up against their oppressors. The Vorthak high caste was beginning to panic. For the first time in their history, they were facing enemies who could not only match their technology, but could also turn their own people against them. Overlord Kraxthul, who had humiliated Admiral Lee months before, sent a message to Earth: "Human leaders, we are willing to discuss terms for peace." President Yoon's response was simple: unconditional surrender and the release of all prisoners. Nothing less will be accepted. Admiral Lee stood on the surface of New Incheon, watching human children play in the sunshine they had not seen for months. Beside him, Kesithara and other rebel Vorthak were helping to rebuild what the High Caste had destroyed. "Admiral," Captain Park said, walking up to him, "Fleet Command wants to know if we are ready for the next operation." Lee looked up at the sky, where Vorthak ships now flew under human command. Their former crews were learning new ways to think about warfare, cooperation, and freedom. "Send a message to Fleet Command," he said. "Tell them we are ready to take this war to the Vorthak homeworld." The hunters had become the hunted, and soon the galaxy would learn what happened when someone challenged humanity to prove they were alpha. Fleet Admiral Lee Hyun-woo looked at the massive fleet surrounding his flagship. Ships from a dozen different species flew together under the banner of the new Galactic Federation. Human vessels flew alongside rebel Vorthak ships, freed alien slaves, and even some former enemies who had chosen to join the cause of freedom. "Admiral," Captain An Soo-jin reported from her station. She was young, one of the new generation of officers who had grown up during the war. "We are receiving the final intelligence reports from the Vorthak homeworld." The main screen showed the planet Vorthak Prime. It was a dark world covered in massive cities and military bases. For thousands of years, it had been the center of the empire that called itself Alpha. Today it would fall. "What is the situation on the planet?" Lee asked. Commander O appeared on the communication screen. She had been leading secret missions on Vorthak Prime for weeks. "Admiral, the low-caste rebellion is ready. Half of the planet's garrison has joined us. The high caste is trapped in their palaces and bunkers." Dr. Kim Jae-ho, now the Federation's expert on Vorthak culture, reviewed his reports. "Sir, our psychological warfare has been very effective. Most of the Vorthak population no longer believes in the Alpha doctrine. They want to be free from the high caste." President Yoon Sang-min's image appeared on another screen. He was speaking from Earth, but his words would be broadcast across the galaxy. "Admiral Lee, the entire galaxy is watching. Today we decide what kind of future we will build together." Lee nodded. For 2 years, humans and their allies had fought to reach this moment. Dozens of worlds had been liberated. The Vorthak Empire was crumbling from within. Now only the homeworld remained. "Begin the final operation," Lee ordered. The massive fleet moved toward Vorthak Prime. As they approached, they could see the planet's defenses. Huge space stations surrounded the world like metal moons. Energy barriers protected the most important cities. Millions of weapon platforms pointed outward, ready to destroy any invader. But something was different about these defenses. Many of the space stations were dark. Explosions could be seen on the planet's surface. The rebellion had already begun. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. The screen showed the last Vorthak Emperor, Zex Thalar. He was the final member of the highest bloodline, the one who claimed to be the most alpha of all, but he looked tired and afraid. "Human Admiral," Zex Thalar said, "I offer you terms for surrender. The High Caste will share power with your Federation. We can rule the galaxy together." Lee almost felt sorry for the alien Emperor. He still did not understand what was happening. "Emperor Zex Thalar, you cannot offer to share something that is no longer yours. Your empire is dead. Your people have chosen freedom over slavery." "Impossible," Zex Thalar roared. "The low castes exist to serve. The high caste is superior. We are alpha." "No," Lee said quietly. "You were never alpha. You were just bullies with big weapons. And bullies always fall when people stop being afraid of them." The fleet moved past the dark space stations without firing a shot. The low-caste crews had already taken control and shut down the weapons. On the planet's surface, rebel forces were capturing government buildings and freeing the last prisoners. Captain An monitored the communications from the planet. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender messages from across the world. The high-caste military is giving up." "Any word from the Emperor's palace?" Lee asked. "Negative, sir. Intelligence reports that Zex Thalar has locked himself in his personal bunker with his remaining guards." Dr. Shin Mi-young, still running psychological operations, shook her head. He will never surrender. In his mind, admitting defeat would mean admitting that everything he believed was wrong. Then we will have to go get him, Lee said. The landing was not a battle. It was a liberation. Human Marines and their alien allies were welcomed by crowds of low-caste Vorthak, who had been waiting for this day their entire lives. Children who had never been allowed to speak freely cheered as the ships landed. Workers who had spent their lives in factories and mines celebrated in the streets. Kesithera, the low-caste warrior who had helped liberate New Incheon, met Lee at the landing site. "Admiral, my people are ready to help you capture the Emperor. We know all the secret ways into his palace," Lee smiled. "Lead the way." The Emperor's palace was a massive structure built to show the power of the high caste. It had tall towers, thick walls, and weapons everywhere. But it had been built to keep enemies out, not to keep the Emperor's own people from turning against him. Working together, humans and rebel Vorthak found ways through hidden passages and maintenance tunnels. The few high caste guards who remained loyal fought desperately, but they were outnumbered and surrounded. Finally, Lee and his team reached the Emperor's personal bunker. It was a room deep underground, surrounded by the strongest armor and the most powerful weapons the Vorthak could build. But it was also a prison. Zexthaler had trapped himself inside with nowhere to run. "Emperor," Lee called through the bunker's communication system. "Come out. It is over. Never." Zexthaler's voice was full of rage and fear. "I am the last of the pure bloodline. I am Alpha. I will not surrender to inferior beings." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "Admiral, let me talk to him." Kim activated the communication system. "Emperor Zexthalar, I am Dr. Kim Jae-ho. I was one of the humans you captured and tortured. I want to tell you something." "What could a lower life form possibly say to me?" Zexthalar replied. "I want to thank you," Kim said. This surprised everyone, including Lee. "You taught me something very important about what it means to be truly superior." "What are you talking about?" "You showed me that real strength is not about having the biggest weapons or the most fear. Real strength is about lifting others up instead of putting them down. It is about building instead of destroying. It is about creating hope instead of spreading despair." Kim paused, then continued. "You called yourself Alpha, but you never understood what that word really means. An Alpha protects the pack. An Alpha helps the weak become strong. An Alpha sacrifices for others, not the other way around." "Lies," Zexthalar shouted. "The strong rule the weak. That is the natural order. Then why are you alone in that bunker while your own people fight beside us?" Kim asked gently. "If you were truly Alpha, they would have followed you to the end." There was a long silence. Then the bunker door slowly opened. Emperor Zexthalar walked out with his hands raised. He looked smaller than Lee had expected. Without his royal armor and his palace guards, he was just a tired, frightened alien who had spent his whole life believing lies. "I am the last emperor of the Vorthak," he said quietly. "I surrender." Lee looked at the fallen emperor and felt no hatred, only sadness. "Emperor Zexthalar, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient beings. You will be given a fair trial." "What will happen to my people?" Zexthalar asked. "They will be free to choose their own future," Lee replied. "The low and middle castes will build their own government. The high caste who committed crimes will face justice. Those who want to change will be given that chance." President Yoon's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Lee, the galaxy is waiting for your report." Lee activated the broadcast system that would send his words to every world in known space. "People of the galaxy, the Vorthak Empire is ended. The last emperor has surrendered. The age of the self-proclaimed alpha species is over." He paused, looking around at the humans and aliens who had fought together to reach this moment. "But we are not here to replace one empire with another. We are here to build something new. A federation where all species are equal, where strength is measured by how much we help each other, not by how much we can hurt each other." Kesithera stepped forward. "Admiral, my people would like to request membership in your federation." "It is not my federation," Lee replied. "It belongs to all of us. And yes, the Vorthak people are welcome to join, along with any other species that chooses freedom over conquest." As the news spread across the galaxy, celebrations began on 1,000 worlds. Species that had been enslaved for generations were finally free. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed unstoppable, had been not just defeated but completely transformed. But the greatest victory was not military. It was the proof that cooperation was stronger than conquest. that hope was stronger than fear, and that the future belonged to those who built bridges instead of walls. 20 years later, Admiral Lee, now an old man, visited the memorial on Vorthak Prime. It honored all those who had died during the Empire's reign of terror, humans, Vorthak, and dozens of other species. Standing beside him was Kessathera, now an ambassador in the Galactic Federation. Her children played with human youngsters, speaking a dozen different languages and dreaming of exploring the stars together. The memorial had a simple message carved in stone. True strength is not in conquest, but in the courage to build something better from the ashes of what came before. The Vorthak had claimed to be Alpha. They had built an empire on fear and slavery. They had called themselves superior to all other life in the galaxy. But in the end, they learned that the real Alpha species was not the one with the biggest weapons or the strongest armor. It was the one that could imagine a better future and work together to build it. The Vorthak Empire was gone.